Are you interested in real estate investing but not quite sure where to get started? Do you want to get the know-hows on creating ongoing passive income using the buy and hold strategy? Hi, I'm Janice Bowles, licensed realtor and co-founder of B Premier Ventures, a real estate development and consulting firm where we buy and beautify distressed real estate, renovate it, and resell for profit. With over 15 years of investing experience, B Premier has extensive knowledge in rural land development, fix and flips, and rental acquisitions. B Premier's current portfolio consists of properties within Florida and Virginia. Our firm's services includes investor project consulting, project management, and group coaching. For more information, visit our website at bpremierventures.com and schedule a complimentary discovery session or subscribe to our email list. It's free. Follow me on Instagram at Janice Bowles for additional real estate investing tips. B Premier Ventures, we buy and beautify.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of Let's Do It Talk Show. It's your girl, Ladrine Howard Peterson, the CEO and founder of Do It, delivering on ideas and thoughts. And you know what I do in a nutshell, right? I help to turn dreamers into doers, and I do it from two aspects. I do it from the aspect of career development, resume writing, interview preparations. You're looking to change jobs, or if you have a problem on your job, I am your girl. And then I also do it from a business aspect. If you're looking to expand your business, you're looking for marketing strategies, if you have ideas and thoughts and don't know how to bring them into fruition, I am your girl. Here on the Let's Do It Talk show, we were primarily created for entrepreneurs, right? Quickly, we realized that the entrepreneur is an entire person. So we talk about faith, we talk about finances, we talk about the future, and we talk about families and relationships. This episode is a continuation, it's part two of the last episode, and it is titled Soaring to New Heights. And the subtitle, Just a Kid from the Gutter Who Made It From Nothing to Something. And my special guest is Rashawn Clark. And so, what we're going to do is we decided we were going to keep the cameras rolling and pick up on part two of this discussion so that he can finish telling you about his story and his triumph through all of the various things that he went through. And it pretty much helps you to understand why he moves and operate like he does. If you missed the last episode, please make sure that you go back and take a look at that deep conversation, deep insight on looking at things from three different perspectives, talking about emotional, mental, and physical. So he talked about the trials that he went through with those, but he also talked about how those gave him strength and how it built up his strength. So we're not going to delay. We're going to jump right into part two of this interview. Rashawn, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. Welcome back to part two.
I'm so excited to be jumping back into this conversation. Part one, I mean, very deep, very deep. And as I stated to you, the strength, not only physically, but mentally, of the things that you talked about that helped you and that you utilized for your survival. Amazing, amazing. And then the analogy from playing chess and how your instructor put it in your mindset to apply that to real life and how that just helped you out in so many different situations. So let's jump back into the conversation. We started from Little Rashawn. We moved on up and we got into the discussion of your timing of being at the airport, actually your first flight, your first time flying and meeting the pilot. So let's pick up from that point. And you talked about like the excitement that you feel. So pick up from that point and transitioning to your status right now in terms of pilot. And I know that there's a difference between commercial pilot and some other aspects of it, but you can start off by just any thoughts that you had from the last episode, and then we can jump right into where we left off.
Okay. So after I took my first flight, I knew I wanted to do it again. I said, I mean, of course, I'm 12 or 13 at this point because, like I said, it was my middle school graduation trip to Orlando on U.S. Airways, which is now American Airlines. And from that point on, I was like, okay, I want to get on another plane. I want to fly again. Of course, I didn't have any money, but I was like, okay, cool. So I started selling lemonade. To save up money, so I could travel.
Okay.
I was selling lemonade and like candy bars for like $1 a pop. The second flight I actually took, I wasn't 17 at all, so I had took a flight when I moved. You know, I ran away from a foster home, and I jumped on a plane, and I actually, where did I go? I flew to It was somewhere cheap. I can't even really remember, but I flew somewhere real cheap because I only had about like $400. But I flew somewhere cheap, and I had to make sure I had money to still eat and stuff. And I I knew at that moment when I got on that plane again, I said, okay, I have to figure out how I can actually enjoy myself. Where I can get into the pilot life
So
and actually be successful at it. And before that happened, I can honestly say that my life took a turn for the worse. I was living on the street.
So let me ask you this before you jump into that. So that second flight that you took, right? You're on the plane, regardless of where it went, where you were going. Describe your feelings. So we understand the first time that you got on the flight, it was excitement. You saw the pilot, and it was like, ooh, put it in your head. This is what I want to do. Then you still was like, this is what I want to do. So describe any memories or any pivotal moment from when you were on your second flight.
Yeah. This is my second flight by myself. Um, I was scared. I was lost. I was confused, and I was hurt. And I say scared, lost, confused, and hurt because I didn't know what I was going to do once I landed. That's the confusion part. The lost part, mentally, I was so far gone. Like mentally, I was so far gone to the point of I'm tired of going through the same thing. Something has to change. I figured I figured that like the thoughts of suicide came back again, and at that moment, I told myself, killing myself is too easy. Yeah, I'll be gone. I don't have to suffer anymore. But to live and stand for what you believe in and fight for what you want in life is the harder part. And at that time when I thought about it, I was like, I could sit here, I could soak in my misery and blame everybody else for the nonsense, that's going on in my life, or I can actually find a way to take control of my life. I was hurt because I didn't think that, like, when I ran away this time, it was because I got into a physical altercation with my foster dad.
Okay.
His son, their actual son, this foster home that I was in at this point, the son was bothering me. I wasn't trying to be physically aggressive, so I kind of just stayed quiet at a certain point, and then I finally lashed out. I beat up my foster brother. That was their real son. Most of the foster homes I was in, I was with their actual kids.
Okay.
And my foster dad, he punched me in the face. I punched in the face. We start fighting. in that situation, I get knocked down the steps in that situation,
Wow.
tussling with my foster father at that point. I actually still got the knot in the back of my head from the back of my head. I hit one of the steps on the way down, but yeah, at that point, I just had enough because I didn't think that I would ever like have to, really fight, fight another foster parent at that point. And yeah, so that's the part where I was hurt because I was like, okay, I should be fine now. I'm older. Maybe parents will be a bit more understanding and like to a child at this point.
Right.
Where nothing would come to blows. So yeah, on that second flight, I was broke. I was lost. I was hurt. I was confused, and like I said, the thoughts of suicide came back
Wow.
where it was like, yeah, I should just end it. You know, um, but
So what happened when you landed?
I left the airport.
So you stayed in the airport?
No, I slept in the airport for the first night,
Mhm.
trying to figure out a game plan. And then the second day, I leave the airport about 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I leave the airport. I'm like, I'm gonna just walk around. I'm gonna walk around. I'm gonna find something. I'm gonna just figure something out. And sure enough, this is the first time I thought about committing crime.
Wow.
Well, technically, to be perfectly honest, even though I had money, of course, my money ran out. I didn't know at this point. I didn't know how to pay for a hotel, no nothing. And when my money ran out, I started going in delis, snatching and grabbing.
Mm.
Like I'll walk in, I'll order some food at the deli, um, and I'll wait till I'll walk, I'll walk through a strip of stores, and if I seen a crowded store, what I will actually do is I'll walk in that crowded store, and while you have the cashier person that's actually taking a person's order or something,
Mhm.
I'll walk in the refrigerator, I'll spill a soda, run out, I'll just run.
Wow.
Saying I was doing that for about a week, and then I just got tired. I'm like, why do I feel like I'm always running? Why do I always feel like I have to survive?
Mm.
And for that whole week, after I left the airport, I slept next to a dumpster.
Wow.
Yeah, I was sleeping. I was sleeping next to a dumpster. All I had on me was a pair of Reeboks, high top white Reeboks, a dingy white T-shirt, and some shorts. I was sleeping I was sleeping next to a dumpster. Um, and that I'll probably say that was the darkest moment. That was probably like the very first dark moment in my life where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to die.
Mm.
I'm gonna die because I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing about how the world works. I had crappy foster parents to the point where nobody taught me any morals. Nobody taught me how to do anything. I didn't know. All I knew was school. That's all I knew. I knew how to play chess. I knew how to play football. I knew how to go to school. And I'm like, I also knew that I couldn't get caught. So, and I was in my dark moment where I'm like, yeah, kill myself,
Dang.
end all the suffering, end all the pain, all the stuff I'm going through. Life's not fair because I keep getting placed in foster homes where the good foster homes out of 28 foster homes, I can honestly say about four of them were decent, and three out of the four were only respite. And when I say respite, that's basically in foster care when you hear okay somebody's going to a respite home, that's basically saying I'm only allowed to be there, until they find me something permanent. It seemed like all the good foster homes I would go to for respite were temporary. All the
Wow.
permanent homes was where I was going through the abuse, the torture. So I just came to the decision, one day I couldn't bring myself to commit suicide. I
Right.
couldn't do it. So now I'm sitting there like I'm just gonna call my social worker. I'm gonna reach back out and I'm gonna just see what my options are because I didn't want to die.
Right.
I felt like I said if I felt like if I was going to die at that point, I'd rather die fighting than just giving up. So I reached out. I reached out to my child advocate, not my social worker, my child advocate. Her name is Kate Metcalf. Shout out to her because she pulled a lot of strings for me. But she was the person who pretty much represented me in juvenile dependent court. Uh, I called her. I told her where I was. Um, you know, she had the police come pick me up.
Okay.
Um, she reached out. Like I said, I don't remember where I want to honestly say I was probably in like New York or so. I was somewhere in the Northeast region. I do know that.
Okay.
But she called. Yeah, she called the police. Um, you know, I told her where I was. She sent the police to where I was at. They picked me up. Um, took me to the police station, and then they had they pretty much got me shipped back to I was in New Jersey at this point.
Okay.
They shipped me back to New Jersey. And I had to, you know, that's pretty much how my second flight went until it was all over.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know.
And so, moving from that standpoint, into your next phase of life, like, because we're moving to get to the point of, um, actually you beginning to, go to school and starting your education in terms of piloting, becoming a pilot. So, tell me about the next phases. So you get back to New Jersey, still a
Get back.
kid, and then tell me about the next phase, and then bring me into the point of where you started taking classes to become a pilot.
Okay, so at this point, I finished high school. I finished high school. I finished high school. I graduated. I couldn't really. Of course, I wanted to get my own restaurant, but I'm like, okay, if I go to college, that's the only way I could stay in foster care because I still needed help. So in foster care, what you have is called a board extension. A board extension, 17 or 18, pretty much up until the day before your 22nd birthday, if you want to go to college. So I finished high school. I choose college. I had scholarships to about 11, 12 schools.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I had scholarships. I chose University of Houston. Uh, I chose University of Houston, and I also was trying to entertain the culinary arts.
Okay.
So I had to write an essay for the Art Institute of Houston, and about 7 months in, I get accepted. I get accepted into the Art Institute of Houston, University of Houston, and a couple other schools. But Art Institute of Houston, I was like, that's the culinary. That's the way I'm going to take.
Okay.
So I'm in culinary. I'm in baking and pastry, and I'm taking a hospitality course because I wanted to open my own restaurant. I'm about 5, 6 months in. I'm doing well, and stability. My stability got messed up. Foster care paid for my apartment. They paid for me to be in an apartment while I went to the Art Institute of Houston,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody broke into my apartment and robbed my apartment. Uh, and foster care at that point, they they abandoned me. They just, we can't help you. You got to figure this out on your own. We'll continue to help you with the educational portion, but as far as my housing portion, I was on my own. So now
Hold
I'm back
on.
on the
Wait a
street
minute.
again.
Back up. They abandoned you because somebody broke into your apartment?
Yeah, somebody broke into my apartment. I was allowed to have guests in there, so they felt like they felt like, oh, somebody that I knew did it, you
Oh.
know, but nobody nobody did anything. because the only two people that's in my apartment actually go to school with me, and they
Okay.
was there with me, which I tried to explain to them, like, well, look, the two people that's ever been in my apartment are here with me in school, you know.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, but somebody broke into my apartment, took all my stuff. They took my food out my refrigerator, my clothes,
Jeez.
my electronics. They took everything. So I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. I can replace it, no worries. But then, like I said, we can't help you find another apartment. We'll continue to fund your schooling. But now this time I'm older, I'm more mature, and now I'm actually understanding that to actually have a functional life, you have five aspects of stability that all have to be in place. You have to have mental, moral, emotional, physical, and spiritual stability. A lack of any parts of those you're not going to be stable nowhere. You got to have faith, have to be mentally strong. You have to be able to keep your emotions in check and not panic in the heat of the fire. Um,
So I
but
missed one. I'm sorry. I have mental, moral. I missed one, and spiritual and emotional. What was the other one?
mental, moral, emotional, physical, and spiritual.
Physical. Okay, got it. All right. Sorry.
You
Continue.
know, yeah. So at that point, at that point, I questioned God again. So my spiritual stability already out the window. Like,
Yeah.
yo, why you doing this to me? Like, I made it through high school like with all the BS and nonsense I was going through, and now here
Mm.
we are. I become homeless again. I'm on the street, but this time I felt like, all right, as a kid, I don't really care about what anybody thinks about me. Now it was a cop. Now I'm grown, and so
Right.
me going to school now, looking crazy, and me losing my
Yeah.
faith at that point. I'm just like, I drop out. I drop out.
Mm.
So I drop out. I dropped out at that point, and I'm back on the street. I'm living. I'm living in the subway now. I fly back to New York. I fly back to New York City. I'm sleeping in the subways now. This one on like this is a brutal. This is a brutal winter. This is 2011.
Wow.
So I'm sleeping in the subways. It's brutal. It's a brutal winter in New York City, blistering cold. And I'm back to stealing out of delis and I'm house hopping, trying to figure it out. Okay, what am I going to do now? And I sat here. I'm like, I got to figure something out. So I looked into the truck driving thing to get my CDL.
Mhm.
You know, and they was like, okay, we'll put you in a hotel. We'll put you in a hotel, and we train to hire you. Fair enough. I'm like, okay, that's my way out. And I went I went to trucking school. I went to trucking school. I met a girl. I met a girl who was also in trucking school,
Okay.
and we end up she ended up she's I call her my sister today. I ended up staying at her place. She was like, look, she found out that I had nowhere to go, but I was prideful at that point. I wasn't trying to ask nobody. I didn't really know
Right.
nobody. So she was like, look, you can stay at my place. Whenever you need to, take a shower, wash up, cool. You know, and then we both got our CDL. I got my CDL with the girl I call my sister to this day. Uh, and at that point, I'm truck driving. I'm traveling. I start making money. I clean myself up real nice. Honestly, I started praying. And I
Mm.
was like, once again, I'm not really the kind of person to say sorry, but it's like me talking to God. Like it's like when things went wrong, where I felt like I was silly and ignorant at points was when everything go wrong, I'm questioning God. But as I look back, I'm like, well, damn. When things are going right, I don't even take the time to thank Him.
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't take time for even when I was on the street, I'm still waking up. I'm living in New York City when like South Jamaica, Queens, is arguably like one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the whole country. And I'm like, damn, I'm not even thanking God for waking me up every day. I
Wow.
don't even thank Him for, even though it might sound crazy, I'm not even thanking God for making sure I don't get caught when I'm stealing just so I can eat.
Right.
As crazy as that may sound, I'm not. So I'm like, damn, you know what? Here I am, and I'm like, now I'm truck driving. Is it fair? Is it fair to only thank God when things are going right?
Mm.
What about when things are going wrong? And how many times I don't survive? I don't survive being caught in the middle of shootouts. I don't survive being stabbed. I don't survive sleeping outside in brutal winters. I don't survive walking in some of the most dangerous neighborhoods, running away as a kid, and I never got kidnapped, molested. Like, so at that point, I'm just like, I have to do better, to build my spiritual stability because God took me out of a lot of situations that, definitely could have been deadly and ended real bad for me.
So
Even
let
though,
me
yeah,
pause you right there because, like, again, you're very deep, brother, and what you just now said is very deep, right? So, how you framed it, good times and the bad times, and on one of the clubhouses, Trucking God's Way, teaching priest, maybe 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. And I'm saying that because you know of that group. So making reference to that, he spoke on and presented on Count It All Joy. And that stuck with me from that day because growing up as a child, that was one of the most challenging verses for me, scripture for me to actually understand and to get into my soul. It really took me to be an adult to understand that. So when you just went in and you said, I had to make it a point to thank God, right? And then it taught you to not only thank God during the good times, but you thought about the bad times. But in every bad thing or in every situation, good comes out of everything. Good over and supersedes the bad, but it is all based on our perspective and how we're able to look into that. So you went through and you skipped through that real fast, but again, I pulled it back and I paused it because what you said is so powerful in the midst of you, right? Stealing is not right. I'm not condoning stealing, but you never got caught, never got locked up for stealing, never got caught all of the many times that you did that, and the fact that you were doing it to survive. You talked about living on the streets, the mean streets. It's one thing to be in the street and you can get caught, but you lived in the street and you still woke up every day and you're still here today. So definitely a blessing, but it just pulled me into the count it all joy and giving thanks no matter what the situation is. And you broke it down so eloquently and you tried to speed past through it. I'm like, no, pull that back one moment because that
I
was really
mean,
powerful.
it it's like I tell people all the time, like, when I'm explaining like my story or something, I always tell them, yeah, I'm great, but I've had my silly and ignorant moments, and I say silly and ignorant because I've also been at that point. I don't care. Like, it is what I'm like. It is what it is. I don't care.
Right.
You know. But at that moment, it's like, okay. At that moment, I don't care. But when you really sit back and think about it, it's like, you know what? I was silly and ignorant
Right.
because at the end of the day, me sitting here saying I don't care, I feel like it's a slap in the face to God. Okay, you don't care, but God, you should care about yourself and care about the things that you do just as much as God care about them. Yeah, God may
Right.
forgive you, but everybody that's on earth may not feel the same way. So okay, how many times is God gonna sit here and, you know what? I'm gonna just give you a slap in the back of the head, but let you continue to live life. But how many times he gonna let you get away with something? Before you before you pay a price, because there's a lot of wet pillows in prison. Why? Because people want to cry after the fact, and I tell people all the time, I'm never mad at somebody making a good decision or a bad decision. And I personally feel like there's no such thing as a bad decision as long as you can ultimately live with the decision that you make. And I say that to say this as an example. If I decided to go rob a bank, right? I'm
Right.
like, I'm gonna go rob a bank today. You may feel like that's a bad idea. That's not a good decision. Okay, in your eyes, it's not a good decision. Why though? Because you're thinking about the consequences. But if I can live with the consequences, is it really a wrong decision? And that's where I'm just like, if you make a decision, live with it. And I look back at my life all the time, and I sit here and okay, I ran away all these times. I got it. I was choosing to go up against people 10 times bigger than me. Defend myself, even if I knew, okay, I'm gonna get clocked upside the head. If I took a lot of beatings when I was young, cool. But it's like I could live with those. I could live with those decisions, and then it's like, as far as like the church aspect, where the spiritual stability before that really came into play with me, it was more so, why don't you go to church? The main reason for me was, why go to church on Sunday and praise the Lord just for me to come out Monday through Saturday and I'm just out here just doing everything that's not the right thing to do. And I'm like, I'd rather not play in God's face. And people are like, well, God will forgive you. Nobody's perfect. Yeah, you're right. Nobody's perfect. We will all be in heaven if we were perfect. But clearly everybody that's living on earth isn't perfect. Cool. But I said, I'd rather not play in people's face and waste their time. That's like me coming, that's like you offering me a job. Why am I going to sit here and play in your face to try to, waste your time, get the job just to quit or just not to show up at all? It's an insult. It's an insult to God, in my opinion. So I said, why go to church on Sunday? Praise God, but I'm out here stealing, from stores and not doing what I'm supposed to do. And then, like I said, I was silly and ignorant to the point that I really wasn't thanking God. It was like anytime I came to God at certain points in my life when I'm going through all this, I'm just like, yeah, God, why me? Out of all the people that you could have messed with on this earth to put through the stuff you put me through, why choose me? You could pick anybody else, and but not one time did I really look deeper and say, you know what? When I lost my apartment, when I was sleeping in the subways, I was sleeping on the street, park benches, house hopping. You know what? I never got molested. I never got kidnapped,
Right.
murdered. So it was like, cool.
Right.
Like,
So,
fair enough. So even with the truck driving, it's like, damn, I do only come to God, and it's like I'll question him, but when everything's going right, I'm not even thanking him. So it was, so the truck driving. I said I was off and on with truck driving because I had certain health issues along the way at a point.
all right.
That I don't have.
Let me
But
let me
yeah,
let
as
me
far as
pause you and go back for one moment. So, which would it would be another show. I don't want to go deep into it, but I have to give feedback in response to it. So, good versus bad decisions. So in your opinion, you feel like there are no good versus bad decisions, and then you came back and said, because at the end of the day, as long as you can live with the consequences that come up and you know what it's going to be, then that's what it is. So I partially agree with you. I definitely feel that there are good versus bad decisions. I feel that even in a bad decision, like if you learn your lesson and you go through it, and it's a part of life, right? But I do think that there are good versus bad decisions. I think throughout either of them, there's always a way out. There's always moving forward, and it's not the end unless you're not breathing anymore. But that's another show, because I definitely respect your opinion think you very smart and you intelligent and you have laid out some things that I definitely want to go into that conversation a little bit deeper. Of the other thing that I wanted to touch upon was you saying you didn't want to be, my words not yours, a hypocrite of going to church on Sunday and then doing whatever you were doing during the week. So that's a very thoughtful thing because that's a my thought and just talking to people, that's the reason why people stray away from church. And my thing is that God this fixes up your mess. So even in the middle of you doing whatever you're doing, it is God that can change your heart and change your way to make you not even want to do that anymore. Like bad things that I did, even in the midst of it, I never stopped going to church, and God helped me to not want to do those things anymore. Jeremiah 29:11, like our pastor dictated. So I just needed to pause. I just had to come back on that. But that's another show because I'm very interesting in fully going deeper, deep diving into that good versus bad decision, because some of the points that you made about it, I totally agree with it. But then some of it, I was sitting here squirming in my seat like I just can't let that go. I wanted to let it go, but I couldn't. But again, respectfully, respect your opinion on that. So go ahead with you were finishing up your story, but I didn't want to miss that opportunity. So you started talking about the trucking business. So now you're into trucking.
Yeah, I'm into trucking. I'm into trucking now. When I first started truck driving,
Mm-hmm.
like I was probably making about $800 a week, 850 on a good week.
Okay.
A real good week, actually, like about $850 after taxes. You know, but I didn't know nothing about money. Like I said, I didn't have it. I didn't have it growing up. You know,
Wow.
I never had the nicer things. Like I said, I had to pretty much teach myself all the morals and everything that I actually possess today. I didn't. My foster dad at 20 years old, and I'm 31 now. I didn't even know how to. I didn't know how to like write letters. I didn't know how to do a lot like outside of school, like the things that they don't teach you in school. I
Right.
didn't know how to do. To be honest, I went. I'm glad I'm glad that I was dealing with the woman Rachel from like I said, the earlier days in foster care because I couldn't cook. I didn't even know how to wash clothes. So like the basic things that a man would you would hope that he would know at 2021. I didn't know how to
Just
do.
didn't get it.
So
Yeah.
money, I didn't know nothing about money management. I didn't know nothing about taxes. I didn't know nothing about even putting money away for a rainy day.
Right.
I didn't know nothing about banking money, nothing. So, I'm truck driving, but I never had nothing in my life. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna blow money on traveling, seeing the country, and just trying to find my way in life. Food and traveling, and I love hats and
Yeah,
sports. So
from the times that I've seen you, always match it to a T. Got you.
yeah, so I'm just like, you know what? I don't even care if I go broke doing it because I'm like money. I never had money growing up. I don't care if I die without it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I spent the first 21, 22, 23 years of my life because like I said, I got released from foster care completely uh, a day before my 22nd birthday. And I'm 31 now. I just turned 31 in July. So, but
Happy
first
belated
couple years,
birthday.
thank you. First couple years, I'm like, you know what? The first 22, 23 years of my life was pure hell.
Mm.
Didn't really get to enjoy anything. Like the first 23, 24 years of my life was pure survival, fighting for my life, no stability, no peace in any aspect. So now I was like, I'm gonna enjoy before I go into the piloting thing. I'm like, let me enjoy, a couple years of actually knowing what it feels like to love myself, treat myself to nice things, and appreciate the hard work.
Amen.
So
Amen.
yeah, I
Amen.
didn't like I said I didn't know nothing about money management. I was blowing money, well spending money responsibly but recklessly at the same time because I didn't care how much a trip cost. I was on every plane possible. Just going here, going there, on Amtrak, going here, going there, and
I love it.
probably about probably about 2 years ago was when so I spent about 3 good years traveling, meeting new people, learning about different cultures and different parts of the country. So
Okay.
now I'm like, okay, the year of like probably 6 months before COVID happened, that's when I sat there and I told myself I was like, all right, now I feel like I'm not missing nothing as far as the country goes and things that I like to do.
Right.
Now it's a point of me making it outside of the country now, and let me get the stability. Got my apartment. Well, I had a house. I ended up trying to like rent to own a house. That went left just because helping out the wrong person, having a good heart, but whatever, cool. Move past that. Uh, Now it's like I get the apartment. I move to Columbus. This is where me trying to get into pilot school. I had found a school in Ohio,
Okay.
and I'm supposed to go there. I get I get an apartment out there, um, and I I get annoyed and I pretty much just lost hope again because now COVID happens and the
Right.
school about 5 6 people, about 4 people from the school actually passed away from COVID.
Oh my
Out of
goodness.
and then yeah, then 2 people literally like just had it and they got real sick, so they shut the school down indefinitely. But my contract in Ohio at my apartment is already there. I'm already locked into it for a year. So now I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Uh, so I'm calling around to see about other schools, other options, and I I find a school in Philadelphia. I find a flight school in Philadelphia, um, and I buy my books, my pilot books, and everything. I
Right.
enrolled at it's a school called Fly Legacy Aviation in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I start taking my lessons. I started taking my lessons there, but I'm commuting from Ohio because mind you, I'm still truck driving because I couldn't afford. When I started, it was like $70,000. Now it's probably 100,000 because life went up as we know due to
Right.
COVID.
Right. Right. Right.
So I'm paying out of pocket. So I go on the road. I truck drive for about 2 3 weeks, save the money, and then I go to Philadelphia for about 3 4 days, and I fly or do my ground training, whatever I need to do,
Right.
and that's pretty much like me getting into pilot school. I struggle with it at points because I understand that I'm paying out of pocket. So for me to fly now, it went from about $300 per lesson to like 550 per lesson now.
Wow.
So for me to fly a whole week, I have to pay $4,000.
Wow.
You know, I could take they said, well, apply for a loan. I got denied twice. I got denied twice for a loan. Uh, don't have a cosigner. Um, I don't have no financial help to do it. But once again, I got discouraged. I didn't question God this time though. I didn't. So that's progress.
That's
But
good. A lot of progress.
like, yeah, it's progress. I stopped questioning God. Like, you know what? I'm not even gonna sit here and ask like God, like why, why, 'cause I want the. I'm like, I know if I get the loan, I could fly an airplane just as good as anybody at my school. And a lot of them have, they come from like the army or they got parents that support them to do it.
Right.
And I'm like, here I am. I'm like, I could fly just as good as far as doing the book work. I can do that just as good too. But the only thing separating me from everybody else is the finances. Because I'm like, even if I go on the road and truck drive, what people don't understand is people are like, yo, you make good money though. You should be able to do it. But I say, here's the problem. I always was the best at my school doing whatever it was.
Right.
Aviation, unfortunately, doesn't work like that. You have to go at least 5 times a week to actually internalize everything that they're going to teach you, and for you to finish within a year and a half, you have to go at least 5 times a week. I'm going like once, maybe twice a week, or sometimes once a week, and then you don't see me for another month and a half because
Right.
I have to come out on the road. I have to make the money. So I lapsed in my training a few times. I had to retrain, which cost me $10,000, $12,000. And this shout out to Mr. Sebastian because he's the reason why I haven't dropped out. He's the reason why they didn't unenroll me from the school because he's the chief instructor at that school, and
Okay.
he understands. Yeah, he understands what I'm doing to pay for my training. Like I said, I'm not as fortunate as everybody else to get a loan and all that other stuff. I applied for loans, applied for grants. I tried to do everything I could to get help. Cool. But like I said, I didn't question God, and I'm just like, okay. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna keep trying to pay out of pocket, but
It's a journey. It's a journey. But just like in all other things of not giving up and being strong and figuring things out. So one of the things that I wanted to ask for my own education, when we were talking, you were mentioning commercial pilot. I don't. What are the types of pilots? So commercial pilot. When you said that, it made me think of like actual working for Southwest American Airlines, Delta, or somebody like that, versus being able to fly because you fly while you're in school. So explain to me the various levels of pilot or the kinds.
okay. So you have a corporate pilot where, let's just say, okay, I'm flying for Do It Studios. Like I'm gonna just say it's a corporation. That's a corporation. I fly. I have a contract with you guys. I'm flying with you guys. I strictly fly for you. Business and corporate, I believe, is like somewhat the same. Like
Okay.
I could fly for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I have a contract with the Philadelphia Eagles. They pay me $200,000 a year. I fly them to
Gotcha.
their games. You know, a private pilot. A private pilot, you could like do charters. Like you ever see the planes like with the banners in the air?
I do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like a private pilot. Charters, like you could do charter flights. Um, commercial airlines is, yeah, you're flying for Southwest, you're flying for American, like a major airline or a regional airline as well. Because before you go to the major airlines, you fly for the regionals. So as soon as I graduate from school, I won't go directly to American. That's where my school is. My school is partnered with United Delta American. I know I'm going to American once I finish, but before I can go there, I have to deal with the regionals. That's smaller aircraft, and a regional pilot. The difference between a regional pilot and being in the major airlines and the regional airlines. So I fly to major cities, but we also fly to surrounding cities. So I'm going to say I fly into Philadelphia, but we also fly to like a regional airport. A
Okay.
regional airport would be, mm, I'm gonna just say Dallas Fort Worth, but I also fly into Love Field. That's a smaller airport.
Right. Okay.
I fly into Columbus, but I also could fly into Toledo. I fly into Indianapolis, but I can also fly into like Fort Wayne, like a smaller airport. So you pretty much cover all the smaller airports around the
Gotcha.
region. Like me being out of Philadelphia, I'll pretty much be flying Buffalo, New York, Rochester, New York, Harrisburg, PA, Hagerstown, Maryland. Toronto.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay. Okay. So, You took us through your journey, which is again powerful testimony, even aside from the pilot. But we got into understanding why you want to become a pilot. So now, still being in this space in school and still, fighting towards or not fighting, but going towards the mark to become this. So when you are in the air and when you are flying a plane, what's your favorite aspect of being on that plane? Rather it be in training mode or whatever it is, what's the favorite thing for you?
My favorite thing is
Yeah.
being able to perform maneuvers. I love landing. Like landing is like the setup for landing. Uh, that's my favorite thing because it's such an important aspect. I personally feel like it's the most important aspect of the aircraft is when you're operating the aircraft is being able to land. Uh, I like it. I like to showcase my skills landing. That's my favorite thing. We have something called touch and go.
Mm-hmm.
So a touch and go is pretty much you're in the air and you set up for your final approach. You set up for your final approach, and as you're coming out of the sky, once you touch down, you pretty much just full power again, and you go right back up in the air. That's my favorite thing because it's a lot of situations where you know you have to be prepared for it. Like I like being prepared for the unexpected, and I watch a lot of videos where a pilot may be incapable of landing a plane for whatever reason, and you don't want to be a passenger and not know how to land a plane, because people go
Absolutely
flying with
not.
friends all the time.
Absolutely
And
not. Absolutely. That's my favorite. Landing, just so you know, landing is my favorite part as well. I like being up in the air. I like the clouds. I love that. But I like a nice landing too. But landing also lets me know I made it safe. But yeah, yeah. So
that's definitely my favorite. Just doing maneuvers in the air and knowing that I can actually do them.
yeah.
Uh,
And the smile on your face as you were answering that question, I can tell that it's very something that you really, really, really enjoy. You really brightened up even more. What about, is there a least favorite thing that you like about flying?
my least favorite about flying,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really a fan of how my body feels after I'm done flying, to be honest. And sometimes communicating with air traffic control,
Okay.
because part of even before you take off, you have to communicate with air traffic control, and you have to they'll give you the weather report, but you pretty much have to write it in codes. You know, like broken clouds and what's what, like the
Mm-hmm.
heading that you're going to take off with and things like that. But sometimes they speak so fast, I have to listen to it like 4 times, because this is part of where I say if I go 5 6 times a week, I'll actually be able to just
Got you.
you know notch it down like it's nothing. So starting out is like, okay, you got to communicate what the weather's like, how low the clouds are, and all that good stuff. And then when you're in the air, yeah, you have to communicate. And sometimes you forget. Like sometimes I've forgotten what to say, and my instructor, he just end up, saying whatever needs to be said, and then they'll repeat it back to us. It's like, okay, cool. So I don't just because I wasn't used to it at a certain point. So that's my least favorite. Communicating with air traffic control. Most of the time, like
Okay.
that's and I don't like the way my body feels after I'm done flying, because I'll come out of the sky and then I'll just hop in the truck and just go.
Okay.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you need to come up with some mechanisms or something to help you balance that thing right there out. But I can understand what you're saying. So one interesting thing, my daughter was actually telling me about Mac Rutherford, the 17-year-old from our area who just broke a record for being the youngest pilot to fly around the world solo across 5 continents and 52 countries Any thoughts on that? Like, it'll be exciting to see him and what he does at only 17 years old. What are your thoughts? Did you hear about that?
No, honestly, when you sent it to me, I didn't even hear about that. But I mean, it's amazing. Like I will say that you have you have pilots you have pilots that do some amazing things. Like that's really amazing. 17 years old with a brain like that to be able to do that. A lot of people panic on solos. Like you take a solo flight and people are like, "Oh my god!" Like they lose their sense of direction, and you only going from North Carolina to Atlanta, and it's like you're in panic mode. I mean, so 17 years old to fly across 5 continents. That's anything less than outstanding. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't even I can't even come up with a word for that because that's honestly amazing.
that's
You know,
awesome,
and
awesome.
like if people really knew like the stress and the thinking and all the inputs you have to put into a plane and things like that and things you have to watch out for
Mm-hmm.
and you're by yourself. I mean, the fact that you got to fly a big boy with two or more pilots should tell you like the actual stress of landing, takeoff, landing, communication, the dangers, what you need to pay attention to while you're flying. Like people think that you're just up there chilling. Oh, 37,000 feet in the air, and we're just enjoying clouds. No, we're paying attention to our gauges. Make sure we have enough fuel. Make sure no alarms go off. You know, we're scanning the skies, communicating. You know, all that while flying.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
it's a lot. You're not just up there eating Doritos and drinking a grape soda while you're flying. So I mean, like I said, that I didn't hear that, but yes, that's definitely amazing. You know, a shout out to him. He's gonna be a great pilot.
Awesome. I just
You know,
thought that was amazing. Like, I was telling my daughter as I was preparing for the interview with you, and she brought that up, and I was like, "Oh, let me mention that." So that's how I included it. I don't watch the news. I would have known, but I thought it was amazing as well. So, in circling down and closing out, I wanted to definitely circle back to that portion of your statement. And again, I'll read your entire quote because this is how we're going to close it out. Your quote that captured me that you have on your Facebook overview, but more so your Clubhouse bio. And it reads, and I quote, "Just a kid from the gutter who came from nothing to something. Foster care made me stronger, and struggle gave me hunger." This part, though, this is God's plan. So that's the piece that I want you to talk about. Like, as we're winding down, like, break this down for me. Decipher this in according to Rashawn's. If I had a book of Rashawn, break this down for me. You talked about all of the things that you went through as a child, and you even write it in your quote, right? You talking it out and answering the questions and filling me in. I get it to, a degree. But in your own words, break that down for me. What are you conveying? You add all of that stuff at the beginning, but at the end, this is God's plan. Break it down for me.
I always say this is God's plan because I've accepted two things in life.
Okay.
I've accepted that you're not you're not always in control. You're not always in control of what goes on in your life. Um, like the moment that you accept, and I seen it from actually, funnily enough, watching the movie Flight with Denzel Washington.
Wow. Wow. Look at that.
And when I first heard it, it's a great movie. So if you haven't seen Flight, definitely check it out. It was a guy, Denzel Washington, the plane crashed. He saved like 100 and some people. Only 4 people died, unfortunately. But he sneaks off into the hallway in the scene. It's a girl. he's talking to she's a recovering drug addict, and then a guy comes along, and he said, like he had like some type of cancer, but uh, the kind of cancer that he had, he said it's like a 2-3% chance that somebody can get it. Like it's not a cancer that you hear about every day.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy was like, he recognized Denzel Washington. He's like, dude, he's like, yo, you're a pilot. He's like, what happened out there? Because the crash was all over the news. And you know, he was like, well, he like, you limped away. Well, you walked away. And you know, he said something about God, and Denzel Washington questioned him like, you believe in God? And he was like, hell yeah, I believe in God. He was like, you think a plane flying just decides to fall off the sky? He was like, that's not God. He said the moment that he's like, you a stupid. I'm not gonna say the rest, but he's like, you a stupid if you don't believe in God. He's like, the moment that you accept that God, that nothing happens without God. He like, the moment that you accept God and accept that everything. No, he said the moment that you accept everything that happens is God. He said you'll live a much better life. That was the most powerful and underrated scene in that movie. You could go on YouTube and just look it up. But he said the moment that you accept that everything that happens in your life is God, he said you'll live a much better life. That statement right there was so powerful and underrated, and I had to watch it about 10 times to actually understand it, because, and he was like, you know, he was like, do you think a plane, a plane just falls out, flying just falls out of the sky? He was like, hell, I have cancer. And I said, I don't know the kind of cancer he had. He said, I have cancer. But he was like, you think God would have gave me cancer if if I asked for it? He said, no, because I begged him to take it away. Like, that whole scene was so powerful to me. And I'm like, you know what? That was my problem at certain points in my life. I'm like, I didn't accept that. I didn't have control. I didn't accept that.
That's deep.
Everything was happening to me. I didn't accept that. You know what? It was God. You know, but when I seen Flight, I seen that movie, I was like, it's God's plan. It was God's plan for me to go through everything, to learn, you know, all the beatings I took, all the times I was homeless, I was cold, I was hungry, you know, all the relapsing, mentally relapsing, emotionally relapsing, spiritually. I'm like, it was God's plan, because now, like I said, I've accepted. I mean, earlier than 31 years old, but
right.
I've accepted that I'm not in control of everything. Everything that happens to me in my life is God, you know. And when I watched that scene so much, and I literally had to flash back to all the bad times.
Wow.
And I'm like, you know what? A lot of this stuff happened, whether I deserved it or I didn't deserve it. A lot of this stuff happened because I tried to be in control when I wasn't supposed to be. I was trying to force something that I was just supposed to just let be.
Wow.
I was supposed to just let it be.
Wow.
You know,
wow.
So, yeah, that's where I came up. That's why I hashtag a lot now. You know, I don't care about the success. I don't care about the money. I'm okay with understanding that I'm not in control of a lot, but I always hashtag a lot on my social media, you know, God's plan. You know, I always say that because a lot of this stuff you don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna wake up tomorrow. You know, but a lot, like, I lost Mr. Jimmy. That was my foster dad. He was one of the greatest men. Him and Mr. Pedro, two of the greatest men I ever met in my life. And it was God's plan that, you know what, it's time to call you home. Yeah. It might have hurt me, but I don't have no control over that.
Yeah.
You know,
so that was deep. That was deep. But for clarification, you had said 2 points. One, you are not always in control. Was the second one, is the second one it's God's plan, or was it something else and that was a part of part one?
Oh no, I said the moment that you accept that everything that happens in your life is God, you'll live a much better life.
Got you, got you. Okay, okay, okay. Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
and then I just broke it down like, you know what, like once I seen that movie and I just look back on my life, I'm like, you know what, yeah, I went through the beatings, you know, getting stabbed and the homelessness, the cold nights, the hungry nights, the
Yeah.
confused nights, you know, doing it broke, lost, confused, angry, whatever. I was like, you know what? A lot of the times it's just God telling me you're not really in control. Whether it's emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, morally. And I was like, you know what? Everything that happens in my life is God. You know, you're gonna everything ain't all bad. You know,
Amen.
but when you do go through those bad, when I go through the bad things now that I know I wouldn't have been able to deal with, you know, now it's like, okay, you grew.
Right, right.
I seen how you acted and took care of yourself when you was in these bad moments before, but now you've matured, you've grown.
Mm, mm.
I'm way more calm now. I just a lot of things back then that I was angry about, bitter. You know, it's like now I'm like, okay, I'm more accepting of what comes at me in life now than I was before because I understand that I can't control everything. I'm not going to be in control of everything. So it's control what you can control. Do what you can do to the best of your ability as long as you know that you gave it your best. Let God take care of the rest. You
That's
know, because what's going to happen is going to happen.
right. What you said just put in mind the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to change things. Blah blah blah. It put me right directly in that mind. But Rasan, I have to say, conversation has been amazing. It doesn't even feel like we are at that 2 hour mark, but we are. Everything that you went through in life and your perspective of it and the way that you convey it and speak about it, amazing, 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 amazing. We're gonna have to have like a conversation and come back, whether it be a panel of people or just bring you back. I am so excited about what God is doing in your life. It is my honor to have had come in contact with you and interview you. For you to openly, transparently share your stories, the struggles, and the deepest things of what you went through, but it did not break you down. You are still standing. Your strength in the 5 pillars that you talked about and strengthening those. And more so like you explaining and capturing it God's plan. And on a previous episode, how we kind of like put it into the perspective of counting all joy when you talked about all the various things. I can go on and on and on and on about the gems that you dropped, the um many times internally where I was like, aha, or had me like deeply thinking. I could talk to you all day long, and I mean that in all sincerity. But we gotta wrap the show up, right? So I want to end this show the same way we ended the last episode, and that was um a message. Like, what closing message would you have? And I phrase it as what message and advice would you give to that child growing up in the foster care system or that child growing up in the hood? What message would you give them about dreams and staying focused, but also letting them realize that dreams do come true despite their environment, despite what it looks like, that dreams do come true? You had the mic.
Um, it, it, as far as you know, for kids growing up in the hood, you don't have to be like everybody else in your hood because a lot of people make excuses. Like, oh, I'm just a product of my environment. You are still your own man. You are still your own woman. Uh, you know, just know that it's more out here to just it's more to life than just falling victim and making excuses to be a messed up person. You're
Right.
better than that. God didn't put you here to, you know, to be a follower. God put you on here to be a leader, to inspire, to grow, to love and to be a caring person. You know, before you want to take the negative route, think about the people who believe in you, the people who love you, the people that will go to bat for you, and think about what you ultimately want for your life.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing out here except death in jail, and I know a lot of people have been hearing that for years. But some way, somehow, we lose a lot of youth, to a lot of nonsense that they didn't even have to be involved with in the first place.
Yeah.
School, a lot of things that you want to learn in life, school can't teach you. But I pray to God that y'all end up with lovely foster parents, a good social worker that will keep you, that will help you on your way to success. You know, give
Mm.
yourself a chance. As long as you have breath in your lungs, you
Mm.
always
There you
you
go.
always have a chance. And bad
Said it.
bad times don't last.
Mm.
You know, your resiliency and your determination will get you through those bad times. There's always a way out, and there's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, listen here. I'm about to call you son. You're the same age as my eldest daughter. So I'm like, son, but Rashawn, thank you so much. And I sincerely mean that. We're definitely stay connected. So I'm interested in following you throughout your journey and just can't wait to you doing great things now. But I just cannot wait to see like what God has planned for you. And I see motivational speaking and just impacting other kids to not give up. Again, powerful, powerful story, impactful story. So um, lastly, please tell the listeners how they can connect with you if they're interested in interviewing you, having you speak to some children, even grown ups. This is information not just for children, but please share your social media and your contact information, and we'll also make sure we're dropping in the feed.
Okay, my Instagram is future pilot, the underscore symbol 713. That's future pilot underscore 713. My Facebook is my name, Rashawn Clark, RASHAN CLARKE. Um, I do have a clubhouse. My clubhouse name is Pilot Clark. Also, I'll come out. I'll talk. I don't mind. I'll come anywhere in the country. Just let me know. I'll talk to the foster care youth, foster parents, social workers. I've done trainings to help residential facilities and group homes, do better. So I don't mind talking to a group of children, adults, even juvenile delinquents. I
Yeah.
don't anything to assist. I don't mind interviews, coming on somebody's talk show, podcast. I'm easily to contact. My schedule is always open. I mean, if if coming to a podcast or some type of talk show is going to help another soul out there become better or give them hope not to give up on themselves, and even for foster parents, social workers to be better social workers, better parents for our upcoming youth in this generation, or just in life in general, to become better individuals, I'm your guy. My availability is open. Yes, I truck drive, but as you can see, I pulled over for 2 hours, gave y'all my blessed time. I appreciate y'all for listening. Shout out to everyone who took the time out of their day to listen to this story, to talk to me, to get to know me a bit better. It's much appreciated, and stay blessed.
Man, I appreciate you. I really do. I appreciate you. Thank you so much again. So there you have it. Part two. When I tell you this is definitely going to be an interview that I remember, very powerful, very impactful, and I wanted to specifically slow walk it from his early beginnings to the current present. I learned so much from him. He has inspired me and encouraged me as well. It's nothing more that I can say. Please make sure that you follow us on all social media platforms. We are Let's Do It Talk Show. That's our Instagram, our Facebook club, our YouTube channel, as well as our website. Please make sure you follow us. We're gonna have several episodes similar to this. The actual next one coming up after you see this airing will be Money Making Monday. So we'll have our financial ladies come back and we'll talk what we do about finances and money. But after that, we're gonna be talking about beating the odds. So similar to Rashawn's story, going to have like a couple people come on to talk about their stories, what they went through, but more importantly, their triumph and where they are now and the impact that it had on their lives. So very powerful. And again, rest in peace to Jawan, Shanae, who is our co-host. Her son transitioned, and just want to make sure that we keep his memory alive. And anybody else who's dealing with grief, make sure that you take a moment to enjoy those great memories that you had with your loved one and find ways to pay tribute to them. That helps me, help so many other people that I talked about. And last but not least, live your life to the fullest. You never know when it's your last day. You just don't know. And be kind and grant grace to people that you come in contact with and that you interact with. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know their story of what they've been through, and you don't know what they're currently going through right now. So that's it, and I'll see you all next week. Peace.